You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hey, it's Michelle. Okay, we're going to get into a really good tip today that I definitely want you to hear about communication. And I've got a personal story that ties along nicely with it. But before we get into that, I have a very personal story that has zero to do with addiction. So if you just want the tip, fast forward. But we're friends, and I want to share with you just a really funny story that I think right before I hit play to record this podcast, my daughter, who is 16 and wonderful, like she's the best kid. She's also very feisty, and we have this family group text with extended family that we sent out, and we started it when the COVID thing happened, and we just check on each other every now and then. And I love to dance. I think I could either, I write for a living, I research for a living, but if I could have a secret life, I think I would be a dancer, because I'm not good, but I love it. And remember the old Michael Jackson or Madonna videos where they have dance-offs in sync or whatever? I love watching people dance, and I think I could be very good at it if I practiced a lot. So my kids, because it's summertime, have been sleeping in till ridiculously late hours of the afternoon or late morning or whatever. And one of the ways that I try to wake them up is I take one of those little mini boom boxes. You know what I'm talking about? the Bluetooth speakers that you can get on Amazon for $50. I have one, and I take my phone and I play a song as loud as the boombox will go, and I carry the boombox from room to each one of my kids' rooms to wake them up, and I dance. I do a little dance routine, my own personal made-up routine to wake them up. And lo and behold, right before I started recording this, I got a text message from a member of the family, my daughter, and it was sent to our entire family group text of a video of me dancing. I had no idea she was laying in bed filming me walking around the hallway, going from room to room. And you guys, this is a sad part. I wish I could actually, you know what? I'll post it in our secret Facebook group. I feel in my head, in my mind, I looked cool. It was to the Beastie Boys. It was a song to the Beastie Boys, and I was sort of breakdancing. And you guys, I really felt like I looked cool. If I was in a club with a bunch of 21-year-olds, they would be like, no way, look at that 40-year-old woman throw down. How does she know those moves? This is what I'm imagining in my head when I'm doing my dance routine. What I saw on the video was not exactly cool looking at all. It was, in fact, quite embarrassing. So I felt like maybe I need to reconsider my secret life as a dancer. Anyways, again, nothing to do with addiction, but that just happened to be about 4 seconds before I hit play as this video went to my entire family. Thank you, Lauren, my daughter, for sharing that information. Looked like the dance of the dorks. But you know what? I secretly am a dork, so I'm very comfortable with that. Fine. Okay, let's bring it back to addiction. Let's bring it back to you. We're going to talk about communication, and I'm going to give you a good story today, all right? It's actually a really personal story that I haven't shared before. So if you're a long-time listener, this is new stuff. Last week, we talked about the importance of timing. When you are upset or want to talk about an issue with your loved one, you have to time it well, right? You have to do it when they're sober and when you're well rested, and it's really nice to give them a heads up that you are upset so they have time to adjust and consider your feelings. This week, we're going to be talking about the way you communicate. So what do you actually say? And I'm going to be asking you some questions, and they're really simple questions because, again, super simple, right? And you can answer them yes or no. And don't worry, it's just you and me, so there's no judgment. And the more honest you are with yourself, the faster you will heal, all right? But before I get into those questions, I'm going to tell you a story. And you guys know I am very okay with calling myself out on my previous mistakes with my past marriage. Very comfortable with doing that. But this, surprise, surprise, is a success story. This is something I actually nailed. And I nailed this, and then I thought, oh my gosh, I just nailed this. This is fantastic. I had no idea this would actually work. So I'm going to share it with you. So my ex-husband went to rehab, one of those hoity-toity fancy Malibu rehabs, the ones where all the stars go. And he came back, and I thought, being the naive person that I was, okay, we finally managed to get him there. We raised all the money for him to go. This is going to be it. He's going to come back, and we're going to live happily ever after. And I know that, not to be Debbie Downer here, but that very rarely happens. The average amount of time it takes for for rehab to actually work is seven rehab visits until they get sober long term. Did not know that fact at the time, or that statistic. So he came back, and I was so excited. I had just had a baby and 2 other young kids. And I was like, this is it. Yay, we did it. We got through addiction. We're home free. Everything's going to be fine now. And I started noticing about a week into when he got home, I was like, wait a second. He's going into the bathroom for really long periods of time. He's leaving the house. He's taking phone calls in secret. You know that feeling? I know you guys know, where you just feel like something's off. You don't have any proof, but you're nervous, intuition is no, something's going on. And then you try to talk yourself out of it and convince yourself you're wrong. That's how I was feeling. And I was like, there's no freaking way that we have spent the amount of money we spent on this rehab, and we're only back for 7 days, that he's up to no good again. There's no way, right? A week, it's only been a week and we're back to this? No way. So I tried. Normally I would have tried, or I would have confronted him. I would have accused. I would have tried to develop some sort of proof, right? I would have looked through closets or pockets of pants, or, tracked the phone, or do all those very unhealthy habits that we do when we're desperate for control. But this time, what I did was I sat him down on the couch. I'll never forget it. I sat him down on the couch, and I sat very close to him. And I looked him in the eyes, and I waited until all of the kids were preoccupied. And I said, look at me. I love you with all of my heart and soul. And I want to be with you forever. So I need you to tell me the truth. I'm going to ask you a question. If you promise to tell me the truth, I promise you with all of my heart that I will not be mad. I will not be disappointed. I will love you through this. I will stand next to you. I will not be angry, but I need you to tell me the truth because we've been through so much together. And I want to see you happy. And I want us to be a family that lives forever and ever together and raise our children together. And I know that you are a good man. And I know that you could be successful and that you have all the potential of anyone in the whole wide world. You have so much potential. So please tell me the truth of the question I'm about to ask you. Please, I beg you, do not lie to me. You are safe. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to be mad. And he looked at me and he was like, okay. And I know he knew, of course, what I was about to ask. And I said, have you been doing drugs since you've been home? And he said, no, I haven't. And you know what, guys? There was a part of me that was like, okay, I just want to believe that. I just want to go with that because that answer is a lot easier than pushing this. But there was something inside of me that was like, Michelle, you got to get the truth. If you want to move forward with this man, you have to have honesty in your relationship. You don't necessarily have to have sobriety, but you have to have honesty. So I said, okay, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor then. And I'm begging you to do this. Please do this for me and do this for our children. Please. I promise you, I'm not going to be mad. And he's like, what do you need me to do? And I said, I need you to take a drug test. And he kind of sat there and got real quiet and real still. And I'm sitting there looking at him thinking, I think there might be a chance he's going to say yes. I think I have set the tone with such compassion and such acceptance, which is a strategy and a technique I had never done before. And he said, okay, I'll take one. So I got in my car. I didn't wait one more second. When you get the answer you want, you stop the conversation and you move on. So I grabbed my keys, I got my car, and I drove to the local CVS. And I went and I got a drug test. And I came back. And I got the Mac Daddy drug test, the one that's tests for every single thing. Because I'm like, look, it was $20 more. But I'm like, if I'm going to know, I'm going to know. I want to know all of it. And as I was driving back home, I'm like, why would he agree to take this if he wasn't sober? So it's got to be all turning out. It's got to have been turned out negative, right? It's going to turn out negative. So I get home, I walk through the door, and he's still sitting on the couch. He's not watching TV. He's not looking at his phone. He's just looking out the window. And that's when I start to think, oh my goodness, maybe this isn't going to turn out negative. Maybe he's in deep thought about what's about to go down. So I hand him the box, and he goes into the bathroom, and he comes back out with the test, and it takes a couple minutes for the results to come in, and I look at it, and it's positive for multiple drugs, not just one kind. And I look at him and he looks at me, and I remember my promise. I remember that I promised I would not get mad. And so I didn't. In fact, I didn't even come close to getting mad, which is a miracle because I felt like for 10 years I've been mad at him for his addiction. And instead, I looked at him and I felt sad. And I mourned the hope that rehab worked. It was like the greatest reality check ever, which is that for the last 37 days, I had been thinking, my expectations had been that he would come home and be sober and we would live happily ever after. And that the reality is that this disease is cunning, and this disease is alluring, and it seduces the addict in ways that I can't. And that in my heart of hearts, I do believe he loved me. I do believe that he wanted to stay with me and with his family. I do. But I also think my ex-husband couldn't accept the love that we were offering him. I loved him hard, very, very much. And I know my children did too. And I think there was some part of him that loved me for loving him that way, but also could never accept my love because he felt so undeserving. And so addiction kept me at arm's length. It kept his kids at arm's length. It kept him from wanting to believe that he was deserving of success. It was a way to sabotage anything good that came his way, because I don't think he felt good about himself. And I don't think he believed he felt good. He deserved to be happy. So, when we talk about communication, sometimes compassion and love and tenderness can get you exactly the answers that you're looking for. I wasn't a bully. I didn't strong arm him into telling me the truth or taking that test. I didn't manipulate him. I didn't guilt him or threaten him with divorce in order for him to pee in a cup. I just asked. And I think when you come from a place of gentleness and kindness, all of a sudden the defenses come down and you're dealing with a person who's willing to be more vulnerable. I think the reason why he told me no is because it was an old pattern to lie to me. That's what he'd been doing for years and years. So it was kind of like, I'm going to lie again. And also, I think it was too difficult of a question for him to admit with words. So he admitted it in another way. Right? And it's sad because he never did get sober. And eventually, I did leave. Not with anger, though. I didn't slam the door and take the kids and leave. I left with compassion and the same love and the same kindness that I had in that day when he tested positive. I left because I knew I had to for my children, for their health and for my survival. But I left with sadness, and I left with no regrets. I don't regret marrying him. Not only because I got 3 kids, but because addiction was the greatest teacher of my life. It was truly the most wonderful healing opportunity I've ever had. Ever. I wouldn't take a day or an hour back. Not 1 second. Because I soaked up every lesson that I possibly could. And then I applied those same lessons to my second marriage and to everything I am today. And that's the thing for you guys too. You're just like me. We're in this together. This is your greatest opportunity to learn the hardest, most difficult lessons possible. But they're the lessons that are going to change you. they're the lessons that are going to make all of the difference. And not everyone gets these lessons, these opportunities. Some people just live, charmed lives and don't have the opportunity to grow like you are being asked and presented to grow. So, that is my story about communication for today. Now, I told you that I would be asking you some questions, remember? And I'm going to get to that right now. So, when you are thinking about communicating with your loved ones, I want you to think about all the times you've previously communicated with them. And I want you to be honest with me because I love you and because there is no judgment at all in this community and because you know that if you answer unfavorably to these questions that all of us have too, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions, and you got to be honest, and you got to tell me the truth. And I'm sorry if you hear the snoring or grumbling or in the background. That is my bulldog, Tubby, my English bulldog. And she is a little piglet, so you might hear her in the background because we're dealing with COVID and we're keeping it real here, that I am recording on my back porch. Okay, so here we go. Yes or no, question number 1. When you are communicating with your loved one and you are upset with them about their addiction, do you involve other people's opinion about them? So, for example, are you like, yeah, my best friend said that you were acting really ridiculous at the party the other night when you were drinking? Do you do that? Do you use other people's opinions to validate your own opinion when you're dealing with somebody struggling with addiction? Yes or no? Okay. Next question. Do you make threats? So do you say like, do this or else? Do you do that? What about this? Do you interrupt? Like when they've said something that triggers you, pushes your buttons, is a big fat lie, is not true. Do you interrupt? Or do you make comments when the other person is talking under your breath? Yeah, I'm raising my hand too. Don't worry. No judgment. Yes or no? Okay, another one. When you're trying to communicate about your feelings and you're feeling upset, do you throw out the D word, divorce? Oh my gosh, I was so guilty of this. Do you threaten to get divorced? Are you strong-arming them? Are you playing the D word card in the heat of the argument? Right? Okay, what about this? Do you use any of the following tactics? Do you use swearing? Do you use character assassination? Do you use contemptuous words? Do you use sarcasm? What about taunting? Do you taunt them, right? So obviously, if you can answer yes to one or any of these, y'all know we might need to reconsider our communication tactics. And next week, I'm going to cover how to do that. But this week, it's just about taking personal inventory. It's just saying, hey, I'm going to own my own stuff right now. And yes, Michelle, I may be able to relate to one or all of the above things you just mentioned because this disease makes me crazy. And I get it. And no blame and no shame in your game, right? Like no judgment. I get it. But we might want to reconsider some other tactics. And next week, I'm going to talk about ways you can replace those negative behaviors that I just mentioned with healthier ones. But all I want you to do in the next, 7 days until the next podcast comes out is if you do get into an argument with your loved one, just take inventory and see if you fell for any of these bad traps. Okay? And remember, that compassion that I was talking about that I had for my ex-husband in that moment, I want you to use that for yourself too. Please, that is the most important thing. You cannot offer compassion to your loved one if you don't offer it to yourself. You are in an incredibly difficult, painful situation that most of your friends and relatives don't have any idea how to handle or how to relate to. You live an incredibly difficult life when you love someone struggling with addiction. It is high stress, high trauma. It's high chaos. So it's okay for you not to have it all together and to deal with every situation perfectly. What's not okay is if you don't offer yourself compassion and be gentle, and you don't understand. This is what's not okay. If you do not understand that you absolutely have control in this situation. You do, 100%. You guys, that whole thing where it says, we are powerless over this disease, bullshenannies. That's not a word, but I'm going to use it anyways. That's ridiculous talk. Of course we have control. You're telling me I just have to sit back and let this disease take over my life and there's nothing I can do about it? No, that's ridiculous. This is something you can do about it. What I'm teaching you every week are tools that can help you stay in control of this situation. You control yourself. You control your reactions. You control how you communicate. All right? So you've got control and you're doing a great job. Just keep learning, keep trying, and don't forget to offer yourself tons of love and compassion because I am proud of you. I am so proud of you for managing this and wanting to learn more. You'll get this, I promise you, and it will be okay. All right, I love you, and I will talk to you next week.
This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with Michelle's personal thoughts and beliefs. From one woman to another, bonded together by the fact we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.